Okay, we're back, we're rolling, it's all good. Hi everyone, my name is Jess and today I'm going to be going through my February reading wrap up. February was very similar to January in that I just generally didn't get a lot of reading done, but these things happen. I've started off March, like the first day of March, on a really good note, so we're just going to see how things go. Like, shit happens, life occurs, we just get on with it. Today I'm just going to be going through the 3 books that I read in February and telling you what I thought of them and a little bit about them. Hopefully it'll be short because I didn't read a lot. So without further ado, let's just get into it. The first book that I read and finished in February was Genuine Fraud by Eat Lockhart. Genuine Fraud is a suspense sort of YA thriller. I actually filmed my first ever reading review vlog for Genuine Fraud and it went up on my channel like 2 weeks ago. So if you want to find out what I thought about this in full, with like full details and maybe a little spoilery bit at the end, then feel free to go check that out. It will be linked down below. So overall, I can't really remember what I gave Genuine Fraud. I think it was like a 3 out of 5 or something like that. I can't remember. I'm a bad booktuber. It's about a girl called Jewel who starts off with her in Mexico, almost like she's on holiday on her own, and she's a young girl. It says she's 18. And the story goes backwards, so every new chapter it goes back. So it starts on 18, it goes back to 0, and it goes back in time. So it shows how she ended up in Mexico and what she's actually doing there. And I found it really interesting. It was very different to things that I've read. I like getting into new sort of genres and I really enjoyed it. There are a few problems I had with it. The next book I read in February was my favourite book of the year so far, which isn't hard because I've read like 6 books this year so far. But that is The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue by Mackenzie Lee. If you don't know anything about this book, which I'm very surprised about, it's been everywhere for like months and months and months. Gentleman's Guide is a historical YA fiction about a son of a lord or a duke or something like that, called Monty, and his sister and his best friend go on a grand tour of Europe before they are supposed to settle down and start their real life, where Monty is supposed to take over his father's estate or something. I gave The Gentleman's Guide a 5 out of 5 stars, which is very rare for me, but honestly I knew I would love it from the way everyone was talking about it. It's got everything, it literally has it all, and I've never read a historical fiction that's so funny. You don't expect historical fiction to be funny. It's so much fun, there's so many jokes, there's so much stuff that you just wouldn't expect to read about in a book like this. There's all the representation, so you've got Percy's representation of being a black person in England at the time that was actually actually living with a wealthy family. You also have the LGBT representation, you have strong female characters in STEM representation, which I loved. I cannot wait for the sequel, which is coming out this year. Oh, it was just so good. It took me a while to read because it is so chunky, but honestly it's so worth it. And even like the bits at the end where Mackenzie Lee has like put information in her research about the periods in time that she's writing about, stuff about the LGBTQ representation, politics, there's also epilepsy representation, which is great. That's not an illness we ever really see in YA. Everyone knows all about this story already, but I loved it so much. It was so fun, it just kept me entertained the whole way through. I wasn't bored at all, and I just loved it. I can't stop raving about it. The last and final book that I read in February was Bonfire by Kristen Ritter. I've also completed a reading vlog and review for Bonfire, which will be up possibly next week, and I'll link that down below as well once it's up. But yeah, Bonfire is about a young woman who is a lawyer, and she escaped her traumatic and awful rural hometown to move to a big city to become a lawyer, and then as a lawyer one of the biggest cases ever comes along, and it's based in her hometown. She has to go back and solve this case with her team, but obviously she runs into a lot of people that she knew at school. She has a bit of a tragic past, and it's about her working through her own trauma, but also solving the case and the mystery of what happened back then, but also what's happening now. I gave Bonfire like a 2.5 out of 5. It was in no way bad, so I'm gonna say 2.5. It was in no way bad. It did the job. It was fine. It was fairly well written. I got through it. I wasn't confused at any point. I wasn't, struggling with it. I was just like, okay, this is happening. Obviously, I don't want to say too much again because I've made my reading vlog about it. I don't know. It just didn't sit overall well with me, but it was entertaining. It was short. It was sweet, and it was something different for me to pick up rather than my normal YA. It's an adult mystery suspense thriller. Anyway, so that was the end of my February wrap-up. So anyway, thanks for watching, guys. If you have read any of the books that I've read or disagree about any of them, or if you even want to make a comment about what you've read in March, let me know in a comment. I really like to read them and I love interacting with people. So let me know about any of your thoughts down below. Also, subscribe if you want to see more of my bookish content. There's a lot more coming soon that I'm really excited about, including more reading vlogs, including more reviews because of the reading vlogs, and just some interesting stuff that's coming up. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time. Bye!